Hello everybody, thank you again for joining us on It Takes Balls to Knit, the show. This is the third episode and I'm currently in jolly old England where I'm getting to visit my family. This is Karen. Give a big jolly ho!
Jolly ho!
Yes, so in this episode we're going to do a knit you where I'm going to teach Karen how to do the long tail cast on. And even if you've done it before, I think you should stick around because there's some tricks we're going to learn that pretty cool. And then we're going to see Barb and the Knitted Knockers. That's a great charity. Make sure you watch that segment, everybody. And then we're going to go visit Luis and his buddies in Brooklyn, New York for Men's Knit Night at String Thing Studio. So make sure you stay tuned. It's going to be a great show. Hello everybody, welcome to Knit You, and today I am all the way across the pond in England. I'm in just outside of Manchester. Where are we exactly?
You're in Manchester.
I know, but what's the name of this area?
Home? Hugh.
You need an English person to say it properly because I can't pronounce it. It's Hugh, England. Hugh, Manchester in England. And this actually is my cousin Karen. You want to say hi to everybody?
Hi everyone.
So apparently we have a very creative family. We have a very large extended family. And quite a few people in the family are creative. But I just found out that Karen doesn't know how to knit, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So that's just a crime. We have to change that. And I also thought, what a great way to show everybody how to do the long tail cast on. Now, it is a more complicated cast on than I would normally show a brand new knitter, but she's smart. She can handle it.
Thank you.
And also, for the people that already know how to do long tail, I think you should stick around because there's a couple things with the long tail that people aren't aware of. Now, this won't mean anything to you, but with the long tail cast on, we can cast on both knit stitches and purl stitches. So you can cast on in pattern and just start knitting right away, whether it's knits or purls. Also, one common drawback to the long tail is you never know how much yarn you're going to need. And there is a very simple way to solve that problem as well. So stick around, you'll learn all about that, and you're going to learn how to cast on to start knitting.
Oh, thank you.
What was that for? She's crazy. I don't know her. So, obviously to start knitting we need yarn. And today we're actually using a yarn. It's called Ard-Thir. It's from Kate Davies Designs. Fantastic yarn. This is an Aran weight worsted spun yarn that is a mix of Peruvian Highland wool Really, really nice. And alpaca, 60% wool, 40% alpaca. Peruvian Highland wool. Love this yarn. I'm actually doing something really special with it as well. And you have the same yarn, but yours is one in what we call a cake. And the cool thing about a yarn cake is that it's not cake you can eat, but you can just pull it out of the middle and work with it. I've wound this up. This was just a little bit. This isn't a full ball. This was a little bit that was hanging around that I kind of swiped from cake because I love this color. This color is, let me get this right, Ard-Thir. And it's fabulous. It's kind of a teal, but it's got, well, it's a blue-green, kind of like a teal, but there's all these colors in it. It's like I look at it like looking at a mallard duck. If you look at the head of a mallard duck, you see all these colors in there. And the same with this one, the Ard-Thir, this is Firemore, and it is a light, I don't know, lavenderish, purplish, marled. It's what we call tonal in color because it's a solid color, but there's variations in it, and it's just absolutely fabulous. But the yarn comes in 10 shades, and if you go on their website, kddandco.com or katedaviesdesigns.com, it'll direct you to that site. You will see that you'll see the full range, but they're fabulous colors. Anyway, it's an iron weight yarn, and what that means is that you get roughly 18 stitches over 4 inches or 10 centimeters using approximately 5mm needle. So you have a 5mm needle, and I have a 5mm needle, and I'm going to show you how to cast on. So what we'll do is I'll actually show you, and then we'll get you to do it. Okay. So what you need to do with the long tail cast on is you just pull out a length of yarn, and I'm going to do that.
Does it matter what length?
It does, but that's an issue I will address a little bit later because that's one of the things I mentioned to people, that there's a way to know. And when you're first learning it, especially learning it, pulling it from a ball or pulling it out of the center of a cake like that, that is the biggest problem, is that if you have to cast on 10 stitches, that's easy because pretty much you just grab a length of yarn and you'll be okay. But if you're casting on for a sweater or something that involves, let's say, 100 stitches, how to know? And there's all kinds of guidelines. People say wrap it around your finger a couple times, and that's how much you need for a stitch, so you can do whatever, or a stitch, an inch per 2 stitches, or whatever. But it changes with everybody, so we're going to solve that dilemma later. For now, though, I want you to learn how to cast on, so doing the long tail. Now, this is called a long tail cast on because you end up having a long tail. So what we do is we take a stretch of the yarn, and halfway there we're going to make a slip knot. And to do a slip knot, you put it over your hand like that, and with the yarn from the back, you reach for the end of the yarn that's behind your hand, and you wrap it over. And if you can see an X in the palm of your hand, you're doing it right. Okay, so there's the X, so it's all good. Now what you want to do is just with your right hand or other hand, you go in and you go under the first loop, and you grab the tail that's hanging down. You pull it under that loop, and then you hold both ends like that, and just pull up, and you have a slip knot. And it's called a slip knot because it slips, it slides. And if you pull it all the way, it undoes. If you pull it like this and you end up with a knot, you've done it wrong. Don't want to do that.
No.
Okay? Now, like everything in knitting and in life in general, there's lots of ways to do a slip knot. So I tend to just go like that because that's what I learned when I was very, very young. And again, it's a slip knot. Okay? So you start with a slip knot, and I'm going to exaggerate a little bit. And you will have 2 ends. You have one end that's attached to your yarn, and a finite end, whatever length you decided to make. Okay? So what you want to do is you take your needle. Now you have what's called circular, we both have what's called circular needles.
Okay.
And what that is, to me, they're the best needles to use because it allows me to knit in the round. I can join my yarn and knit circles. So I can knit a sweater with no seams, I can knit hats, I can knit socks, I can do whatever. Or I can just knit back and forth, not joining my first round, and then I can do just like having two straight needles. And if you think of it, if we cut this right here, we would basically be left with two straight needles. Okay. Okay, so you get your needle or needles or whatever you're using, and you take your slip knot and you put your needle in the slip knot. Okay, then you just pull on it till it comes up. Now you want this to be able to slide up and down the needle comfortably, but you don't want it so loose that you can see a big gaping hole or anything. Okay, so you just pull it till it's just at the needle. Then what you'll see is that you have two ends or two tails hanging down. So you get your thumb and your index finger, and going from the front to the back of it, you're going to just separate those two tails. Okay? Now, I tend to always, not always, but I tend to put the finite end over my thumb and the other end over my index finger. It really doesn't matter. It's totally up to you. However, as we'll show later, if you're doing it this way, the reason for putting it over your thumb is that it uses less yarn. So if you're concerned whether or not you have enough yarn to cast on the number of stitches you need to cast on, you would definitely do it this way. Okay, so I go in with my index finger and my thumb, and I separate the two strands, or the two tails. Then with my other three fingers, I'll just go around and I'll grab the two tails that are there. Okay, so you can see that. So they're holding the two tails, and my index finger and my thumb are separating them up at the top. Now what I want to do is just bring my needle down. So my needle just comes down like this. And when I put it when I turn it facing me, I'll see that I have a heart. Can you see your heart?
Yeah.
So if you don't see your heart, you're not holding it right. And quite often that's the way that people will do it. So just make sure that when you bring that needle down, you can see your heart. There's the heart, people. Okay. Now, with our heart, we also have 4 strands. So there's strand 1, 2, 3, and 4. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4. And to do our cast on, we simply take our needle, and I like to hold it with the thumb and middle finger below the slip knot, and my index finger just above it. It gives me far more maneuverability with it. So I take my right needle and I go over to my strand 1, which is at my thumb, and I'm going to go underneath it. Then I'm going to go over to strand 3, which is on my index finger, and I'm going to go underneath that. Then I take my needle, and you can see that big hole between strands 1 and 2. There's that strand 1, that's strand 2. I just bring my needle through that hole. Once that's done, you'll notice there's a wrap over your needle. And that's actually the stitch that you want. So to complete it now, you just pull your thumb out of the hole, like release your thumb, releases the thing, and pull your yarn. And now that's our slip knot, and that's our first stitch cast on. Okay, so let's do that again. So index finger and thumb, separate the yarn, needle comes down, there's our heart, over to strand 1, underneath it, over to strand 3, underneath that, and between the holes of strands 1 and 2. Then I let go with my thumb. Now in the beginning, when you do this part, you can just let go everything and tighten it up. That takes a bit of time. So what you can also do is once you get to this part and you let go with your thumb, all you do, you keep everything else as it is, but you just put your thumb back on the inside of strand 1 and tighten it up with that. Mm-hmm. And my stitch is on, my heart's there, and I'm ready to go. Okay. You ready to try it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so it's your turn to have a go. Actually, you know what I'll let you do is I'll let you use this needle because it's shorter and it'll be easier for you to work with. And I'll use the long one. Okay. And right here, what's the first thing we do?
So the first thing is to get our yarn.
You're right.
Okay. And pull it to a considerable length.
Exactly.
Okay. And then I need to make a slip knot.
Yeah.
Pull the yarn over, make an X.
See, I told you she was smart.
And then I'm not that smart.
You go in behind.
Oh yeah, go behind, pull the yarn through.
Right.
And then...
Look at that. Yeah. That was like 15 minutes ago I showed you that. So you obviously are smart. Good.
So I put my needle in.
Right.
Okay. And then pull the yarn to just the needle length, height should I say.
Yeah.
And then I with my fingers.
I like to say, even though I'm not a gun person, if you just make the action of a gun,
okay.
you're not holding your harness. No, that was fine. But you make the motion of a gun, and then you go in and separate your two strands, right?
Yeah.
Right? And now is when, see your fingers already closed up? No, you should open them up. And now you close them up around both strands.
Both strands. Okay.
Right.
Ah,
okay.
Sorry, I got one.
Now you see how it's threatening to fall off? That's why I like to have the index finger in front of that knot.
Okay.
It keeps it on the needle.
Okay.
And so now one last thing. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
That's my heart shape.
Right. Now before you continue though, your heart is there, you've got your 4 strands, and that's great. But I like to just pull it a little snug so it's not too loose. Okay, right. So now what do you do?
So now I go over to strand 1. And
that's it.
Is it the left or right of the strand?
Just to the right of it.
Right of the strand.
Because you need to go underneath it, right? That's good. Good question.
And then I know I'm supposed to go through.
Right. So try it.
Yeah, but if I go through, it's going to come up.
No, it won't. Try it. See, this is the thing. We tend We tend to make things more difficult than they are. And what doesn't seem like it's going to work actually works. Okay, now what do you want to do?
I need to release my thumb.
Okay.
Okay, and then...
And then try putting it... Exactly. And now pull up with your thumb. Just bring your thumb towards you. See how it tightens that?
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
I'm good at casting out.
Okay, so let's get that snug and let's try another one.
So, am I supposed to keep a firmer grip on the strands underneath to save it being pulled down?
No, it's you'll learn after time just how much you need to do. It's not crucial at all. It does make it a little bit easier in terms of it's not slipping and you're not having to adjust it all the time. But you'll discover what works best for you over time, and it'll be easy.
So it's strand 1. Okay, strand 2.
No, that's strand 3. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? No, but you already had it, right?
Yeah. And then pull through.
Right.
Okay. And then I'll release my thumb.
Yeah.
And then pull.
Excellent.
Okay.
That's it. And that's fine. That's all. It just needs a little adjusting. Okay. But that's exactly how you do it.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's get you doing a few more. You want to race?
Race.
No, I'm teasing. So try doing about 5 more.
Okay. No. Oh, can I release it?
Okay. Start.
So,
there you go.
Okay.
Yes. That's it. Yeah. Do one more. Good. Okay, so at this point, remember this one you said that doesn't look right?
Yeah.
And that was your first one. And all it is that first of all, it's attached to the, no, it's not about loose or anything. It's attached to the slip knot, so it's a little bit different. But then all you want to do is just twist them all so that the bottoms are on the bottom. Okay?
Okay.
So do about 10 more. Okay?
10 more.
Yeah. You want to be able to do this to the point where you can actually do it with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
And you will be doing that in a minute for everybody to see.
Oh.
Ooh, it's so windy outside. It's been an unusual summer over here this year.
It has.
Not at all like last year when I was here.
No, not at all.
I don't know if I'm coming back. Ever.
You will come back.
Yeah, like a bad
We can't
habit.
have sunny weather all the time.
I know. Excellent. Look at that. You know.
This bit's easy.
Yeah. So when you get to it, what you can do is after you do a few, just open it up and give yourself more yarn. Okay. Okay, so that's just the first part of the long tail cast on. That's probably the part that you know. How did you find that? Was that good? Was it easy?
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, I did find it easy once I got the hang of it and known the sequence to do it in. Yeah. Excellent.
So don't worry, we are going to teach you some more. But in the meantime, we're going to Washington State, where we're going to talk to Barb Demore of Knitted Knockers. Fantastic charity. They make breast prosthetics for women going through mastectomies from breast cancer. Check this out. So Barb, there are thousands, hopefully millions of people watching, and I know there's probably a few of them that know about Knitted Knockers, but most of them probably don't. So could you tell everybody just what Knitted Knockers are, how they started, the usual kind of stuff?
Yeah, you're talking about my favorite topic. Knitted Knockers are breast prosthetics for women who have had a mastectomy, and they're made by volunteers, and we give them away free. And we give away about more than 1,000 a month free to women all over the country, all over the United States, but we're also in 30 international countries. We also support over 1,300 medical clinics so that they can hand them out free to women who are going through their journey with breast cancer and mastectomy. So you asked about it, how it started, and it was about 8 years ago when I had heard the words that no woman wants to hear, that I had breast cancer. And immediately my thought was, I hope I don't lose my hair. And right along with it was, I hope I don't have to have a mastectomy. Well, I did have to have a mastectomy, and I still thought, you know what, it's going to be okay. Nobody really needs to know because I can be immediately reconstructed. Well, due to complications, that did not happen. And so I made a call to a local support group, and I'll never forget the voice on the other end of the line saying, "Oh, honey, I am so sorry, but you can't put anything on that scar for at least 8 weeks." For me, I was devastated. That's the first time I cried through my journey with breast cancer. I wanted to get back to life. I wanted to get a sense of normalcy. And it was just like 8 weeks. It was the low point for me. And so later that week, I was back in my doctor's office and I picked up a brochure for the traditional breast prosthetics. And the doctor said to me, he said, many women are not happy with that as a solution. because they can be hot and heavy and sticky and you can't wear them for a while and they're very expensive. And I said, well, what am I going to do? And he looked at me and he said, do you knit? I was like, yeah, why? And he said, well, I've never seen one, but I've heard there's such a thing as a knitted knocker. You might want to check that out. So I went home and I called my dear friend Phyllis, who's an avid knitter, and I just wasn't in any shape to make my own at that point. And I said, Phyllis, have you ever heard of a knitted knocker? And she said, no, but I'll find out. Well, the next week I ventured out into public for the first time, and I was very self-conscious. I went to church and I put on a loose-fitting jacket. I had stuffed a sock in my bra, and I just was very self-conscious, and I went to church. Well, here comes Phyllis, and she comes tripping in to church with a Victoria's Secret bag, and she handed it to my husband, and she says, give this to Barb, but don't look in the bag. So he did give it to me, and I knew right away what had to be in there. So I went into the bathroom and I pulled out the most beautiful knitted knocker. It was soft, it was light, it was made by somebody who cared. I went in the bathroom stall, pulled out that sock and put this knitted knocker in, and it literally changed my life. I know it sounds dramatic, but for me, I felt normal. I took off that jacket and I went and I re-engaged with people. I could get a hug without feeling self-conscious. It was just life-changing to me. And I knew at that moment that we needed to make these available to women, so when they're going through this journey, that they don't have to go find a friend to make them for them, that they could have them right at the doctor's office and take them home. We needed to be Phyllis's for everybody out there. I was just so excited. It changed everything. By looking out, it was no longer all about me, oh, poor me. It was about, oh my gosh, how can we make these available to everybody? So I did go back to my doctor and I said, if we made these, would you make them available or provide them to your patients? He said, I'd love to do that. And I said, well, how many do you need? And so he started rounding off numbers that just blew me away. In our own little county, they do 50 mastectomies a year. But he said, it's not just the women that are currently having mastectomies that are going to love these. There's 10 years, 20 years of women that have built up that are still struggling with many of the prosthetics that are out there that are really going to like these. And so he said, you're going to need a lot. Probably 200. Okay, so I thought 200. So Phyllis got knitting, and I recruited the little knitting group that I had joined prior to having breast cancer. And I just want to do a shout out to the knitting groups that are in local yarn shops and getting together, and the sense of community from that, because I had developed that sense of community by joining that little knitting group before. And so I went back to those ladies and I said, I've had breast cancer, I had a mastectomy, and these knitted knockers are really awesome. Can you help make them? Well, they embraced the project, so we started making them. And I do want to mention that I did not invent knitted knockers. As you can tell, there was a pattern out there. A young woman in Maine was making these. So I contacted her and I asked, can we help you with this project? And she said, unfortunately, she wasn't able to pursue it anymore. She was a young mother and everything. And I said, can we use the name and help put these out? And she said she'd be thrilled. So anyway, we started making these for our local doctor's office. And we found that, most women, well, I'll speak for myself. I preferred a beige one, one that would just be inauspicious. Well, one day Phyllis put in the bag that she'd knit for me, she put in this hairy knocker. It had eyelash yarn, and it was purple with green eyelash yarn, which is green hair, and orange specks in it. And I thought, and it was a very large knocker, probably a size double D. And I thought to myself, Phyllis, what are you thinking? Nobody's going to want this hairy knocker. But I put it in the bag to go to the doctor's office, and I thought, well, maybe somebody else select it. So it wasn't any time at all. And I get this email from this lady, and she said, I just wanted to share this story with you. But I was in at my doctor's office, and I was all dejected and depressed, wondering what I was going to do, what I was going to wear. And he brought in this bag of knitted knockers. And as I looked through that bag, there was one jewel that shone brighter than the rest. She said it was purple with green hair and orange specks. And she said it made me smile at a really difficult time. So she said, I wanted to thank you for that. And then she went on to say, and my friends just marvel at the beauty of it when I whip it out and show it to them. So anyway, I always finish that story with telling people don't knit hairy knockers. I think she was the exception.
Okay, so I see somebody with a knocker shirt. That is awesome. Could you introduce yourself?
I'm Linda.
Linda. Thanks, Linda. And Linda, what are you up to today?
I am stuffing knitted knockers today. This is my Wednesday for doing this volunteer work.
You look like you're really good at that. How many of these have you stuffed?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I suppose thousands. I imagine, yeah.
Wow.
It's been some years since I started. Yeah.
How did you get started into this?
Well, I have a dear friend from high school who moved back home. She had been away for some years on the other side of the country, and she moved back home and said, you know, I'm doing this wonderful thing for others, and it happens on Wednesdays, and would you like to come and help out? And I said, yes, I would. Yes, I would. My mother died of cancer. It wasn't breast cancer, but it was cancer, and this feels really wonderful to be giving back like this.
So as time went on, I thought, these are really great. We should make them available to people everywhere, to women everywhere. We created this website and started providing knitted knockers where women could order them online. But I learned very quickly that the demand for knitted knockers would surpass the ability to produce them because they're made by volunteers, free of charge, given away. And so I asked my doctor, I said, how many do we need nationwide? Whatever. And he said, well, there's 50,000 mastectomies done a year in the United States. 90% of those women will wear a breast prosthetic at least for a little while. And so that's pretty huge. And I did some research, and I came up with a number that just blew me away, that there are 1 million women living in the United States who have had a mastectomy and not been reconstructed. So I thought, well, this is a pretty huge number. This is too much for any one group to do. So I thought, we need to connect into that fantastic community that I'd been introduced to years ago of knitters and crocheters out there that are willing to make a difference in other people's lives. And what I found is that everywhere I went and was able to connect with knitters and crocheters and present to them the vision of bringing comfort and dignity to women through the use of their handcraft. They just embrace the project. And so I'm fast forwarding 8 years now, and we are providing 1,000 knitted knockers a month free of charge because of those volunteers willing to make a difference in other people's lives. But what I thought in the beginning was a project where we would provide comfort and dignity to women, a great physical product, this knitted knocker, turned out to be so much more.
I'm Char Malsey.
Okay. And Char, what do you have in your hands here?
I have the knitted knockers that have been sent to us this week from knitters. And we get several hundred a week. And we vet them, we open them, we vet them. We send thank you notes to the sender. And We usually get
What to do with it?
200 or 300 a week. So
Wow. So you get knockers donated from like all over?
Yeah, a year and a half ago.
yes, we do.
Wow. That's fantastic. Char, how long have you been with this
I
group?
started in July of 2015, and I have knit almost 800.
Oh my gosh.
In fact, I just brought the 50 that I made while I was down in California this winter.
So you take them on vacation?
Oh yes, yes. I take my knockers everywhere I go. I take my knitting bag. It's a good conversation starter when I'm sitting knitting, and somebody will come up and ask me what I'm making, and my husband will grab my sample out of my bag and hand it to usually the man, and he usually goes,
And I told her,
"What
I
is
knew they
it?" My
weren't
husband will
estate
tell him,
supplier.
and he either goes ooh like this, or he throws it back at him like no.
Well, when I couldn't find
And
her
Char,
for
why do you do this?
then I thought,
Well,
okay, do I
read
set
about
her
it
up?
in the
And then
paper
I saw she wasn't state supplier.
in July of
When she contacted
2015.
me about this
I had
for her
broken my
birthday
leg,
fundraiser,
so I
said,
was just
"Absolutely, if
sitting
you
doing a lot of knitting,
get
and I
money
wasn't
sent for you and you're
doing
supporting
anything
medical clinics,
in
we'll give it to
particular.
you." So,
And
but
I read the
I just
article,
don't have
and I
any
thought,
record of
I'm a
having
cancer
received
survivor,
that
not breast
$780.
cancer, but a cancer survivor. I know how to
That's what I
knit.
don't know.
I need to
Why don't we
do
put
this.
$780
So I came in here
and then
with
put,
the article in my hand, and Andrew
not
came out.
received yet.
And he said, and I said, I read this in the paper. Can somebody tell me more about it? He says, come on in, sit down. I'll show you how to make
Birthday
them.
fundraiser.
And that's when it started.
Birthday fundraiser, not
I've been,
received
as I
yet.
say, I've made almost 800. I'm on
then
789 right now. So,
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for your service, Char.
thank you.
What I had not anticipated is the other side of the equation. The value that is brought to the woman or man that is making these knitted knockers. With 1 out of 8 women having breast cancer sometime in their life, we all know somebody who is struggling with this disease. And we want to help, we want to make a difference, but we don't always know how. Well, with our skills and talents, we can make a difference. And these groups that make all these fantastic items like chemo caps and preemie caps and blankets and hospice care. I mean, the projects go on and on. It's such a giving community. This was just one more way that they could make a practical difference. And I like to tell the story of Anne. We have a group that gets together in our local yarn shop, Apple Yarns in Bellingham, Washington. And it's a happy group that gets together every week to stuff and knit knockers and make a difference in people's lives. Well, one day, early on, years ago, here comes Anne, and she's an elderly woman, and she comes in and she sits down and starts crocheting a knocker. She doesn't say a word. She's very quiet, and we're all having more fun than we should be allowed to have, I think. Anyway, we're just goofing off and having a great time. Well, when it came time to be done and leave, Anne got up and was quietly leaving. Well, I followed Anne out to her car. And I said, Anne, I just wanted to thank you for coming. It was really nice having you. And she looked at me and she said, she said, I lost my husband a few years ago, and I've just been grieving terrible ever since. And she said, nothing has helped. I've gone to grief support groups. I've gone to counseling. I've gone to all types of support groups. And she said, nothing has helped like this has, knowing that I can still make a difference in somebody else's life. And I thought that really does grasp why we do what we do as knitters and crocheters, giving of our time and talents to help others. And so with that huge demand for knitted knockers, 50,000 a year possibly, I thought we need to inspire and equip knitters and crocheters to make them. And so we created the website, we put on our patterns, we have both knit and crochet patterns, we have video tutorials on how to make great knitted knockers, and we put together materials that would help assist people to make them. And I realized that probably most people were like me. I can knit and or crochet, but what do I do with them when I'm done with them? So we set out to create it, make it easy for people to help. And there's 3 ways that people can help if they're interested in helping with knitted knockers. They can, if they can knit or crochet, they can make them. Go to knittedknockers.org. Make sure it's .org. There's no .com. knittedknockers.org. And you will find the patterns, the approved yarns. We've tested yarns because nothing is worn more intimately than these against sensitive scarred skin. So we've got approved yarns. We've got everything you need to make knitted knockers. If you are on social media or you have friends or family, share about it because it reaches 2 target groups, people that can make them and those that can use them. And a third way is to donate, which we are a nonprofit, we are worldwide, and nobody gets a paycheck, and we survive by donations. But I think I got ahead of myself because back to the knitting, to equipping people to knit or crochet these. If you can make them, you can send them to us unstuffed, and we will stuff them and we will send them out to the women that can use them. If you, women that can use them, they go to knittedknockers.org and they can order them. They choose their size, their color, and we try to get them out within 2 weeks at this point in time to them, all free of charge. So if you can make them, you send them to us unstuffed. A second way, if you're a knitter or a crocheter, is you could provide to your local medical clinic, just the way we did here locally when we started. We have 1,300 medical clinics around the country that we support. But what's even better is if a local group can knit for them, because then they're knitting for the people in their own communities, or crocheting. I don't want to miss out on those crocheters. We value them tremendously. So if you can make them and want to provide to a medical clinic, we can set it up so you can adopt a local medical clinic. Of the 1,300 clinics that we have registered with us, half of them are not adopted. They say, we want somebody to make them for us, but we don't have anybody. So we work as that liaison to connect them together. And so that's just a wonderful way to support your local community. And a third way is to become what we call a state supplier. And that's somebody that's willing to fill orders that come in online for the people in their state. And so we help people get set up and get those orders and be able to handle them. Once again, that's a lovely way to knit for people in your own communities and crochet. So those are ways that people can help. So at this point, I know I've said it too many times, we send out 1,000 a month. Last month we sent out 2,400 knitted knockers. Wow. And we are in 30 different countries.
My name is Barb Shepherd.
Okay. And Barb, what do you do here?
Well, Crystal and I do the opening of the donations, and I send the thank you notes for the donations.
Wow, that's fantastic. And how many donations do you guys get?
Well, we have quite a few every day, but I'm up to 2,000 thank you notes.
Oh my gosh, your hands must be tired.
No, I love to write, and I'm very happy to do this.
Yeah. And why do you do this?
Just because I like to do things that help women. Right. And I learned about this at the Linden Fair, and from then I just tracked them down, and here I am 2 years later.
That's fantastic.
So one of the important ways people can help is to donate. We are a 501c3 in the United States, and we survive by donations. We figure it costs about $10 to provide a pair of knitted knockers to a woman. And so a $10 donation makes a huge difference to us. Our postage alone last year was $50,000. So we have thousands, literally thousands of volunteers volunteering their time. and resources to do this, but we can only do it because of the generosity of people willing to help support us. So we do appreciate that. If you want to donate, you can go to knittedknockers.org and there's a donate button there. You can mail checks to us. The address is there on the website. It is very, very much appreciated, and know that every donation makes a difference in a woman's life.
Oh, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. It's great to see you today.
Yeah, likewise. And what are you doing here today?
I am taking care of the financial aspect on Wednesdays. Barbara Shepherd opens the mail. She writes all the thank yous, and then she hands over the monies to me, and I record them, make the deposit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so people are actually sending money as well, not just knockers.
Right. They send. Our donation, we say it's about $10 to make a pair, and it's when people request a knocker, it always says donations are welcome but not necessary, and so we typically receive $10 donations from women who have received a pair, but then we also have very generous people who donate more than that. We have people like today where someone in their will had said they would like some money to come to Knitted Knockers, so we received a check for $2,000.
Wow.
Today, which is great.
So, Crystal, why do you do this? Why do you spend so much time each week? And I know you work not just Wednesdays, like you're doing stuff with this all the time. Why?
Right. Well, one of the reasons is my husband has a traumatic brain injury and has suffered with that for 23 years. And it's the reason I had to retire. And I wanted to do something to help others. And it's really difficult. You can talk to people with traumatic brain injury, but it's not a way of actually feeling like you're helping folks. I'm not a breast cancer survivor, but I've had many friends who are, and so I loved her vision. I loved working with all these women and men too that participate, and I love corresponding. So one of my other main jobs is corresponding with people who send us requests or want information, and it just to read the letters that we get and the emails from how much women appreciate this, how they finally have found something soft. It kind of goes with your nickname, Huggable, because they are. Let me grab one of these. They're very soft and huggable. So one of the things I learned from my correspondence and meeting with women at the shows is that the prosthetics are hard. They are not huggable, so they kind of refrain from that, and so that's one of the reasons. Just to read those letters of how it's giving them their life back, their dignity back. Older women especially, I can go to church now, so they won't go because they don't want to go with nothing in there. And it's just really uplifting, and it helps me to spread that joy and kindness out into the world in all sorts of ways. And that just makes me feel great.
So, Barb, you've told us how individual people can connect and assist with the knitted knockers. What about medical facilities? Like, how are they able to? You said that it started when you walked into a medical facility for your own, but obviously, medical facilities can't come up and just say that. What can they do if they want to get knitted knockers from you?
Yeah. Well, it's my favorite thing is to hear from a medical facility that they would like to provide knitted knockers to their patients. And we get about an inquiry about one a day from all across the country about how they can provide them to their patients. And the way a medical facility can connect with us is to go to knittedknockers.org, and on the front page there's a banner that says medical providers, click here. And we provide free of charge brochures, which I happen to have one here, brochures that they can show their patients. We send them sample knockers to show their patients, and we give them the opportunity, if they wish, to be adopted by somebody to knit directly for them. And so it's very easy. Just go to knittedknockers.org. But one of the ways that we find that medical facilities find us is they hear from one of their patients that, oh, I got this knitted knocker, this is great. you should provide these, something like that. So if you're dealing with breast cancer or any type of cancer, if you are connected with a cancer clinic or a medical clinic that treats patients, suggest to them that you've heard of Knitted Knockers and they should check it out. And all they need to go is to go to knittedknockers.org and we will get them set up.
Barb, I just want to say thank you for allowing us the privilege of coming in and talking to you. Thank you for sharing your time with us and for letting everybody know about this wonderful, wonderful initiative that you've taken on. And we wish you all the best of luck with its continued success.
Well, I can't thank you enough for giving me the opportunity to share my passion and my purpose. And I just am always excited to reach out to the women that can use these as well as those that can make them. So thank you so much for that opportunity.
Dear friends, I just ordered my second knitted knocker and wanted to write and tell you how much I appreciate your organization. I was 55 years old when I had my mastectomy. This October, I'll be 95. I wore an uncomfortable prosthesis all those years until a friend told me about knitted knockers. They are so comfortable and fit well. Thank you so much for your kind efforts. Is that wonderful?
Oh,
I mean, so
Lord.
that's 40 years.
Wow.
And this time, so she's ordered her second pair, or her second, she'll probably get a single, but sometimes we'll send a second one, so while she's one's being washed, she has the one to wear. So the reason why I do it.
So I have to tell you, not only is Barb and the group of volunteers that she's put together just an amazing, amazing bunch of people. What they're doing is truly, truly inspirational, and it helps thousands of women every year. So if you are able to help, go to knittedknockers.org, make sure it's .org, and see what it is there that you can do to help out. Now we're going to change gears big time, and we're going to go to Brooklyn, New York. So we're going to the other side of the country, and we're going to go hang out with Luis and Felicia at String Things Studio and check out Men's Knit Night. Hey everybody, Mr. Hugzzz here. I am in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm on my way to String Things Studio. It's a Thursday night, gorgeous spring night here in Brooklyn. Don't get that very often. And the reason why I'm going to String Things Studio is because they have a knit night tonight. And this is not like your regular knit night though. This is a men's knit night. It's something they started about 3-4 months ago. And it's a great opportunity for guys to get out and knit together. Just, showcase their skills and learn new stuff and just have a great time socializing and knitting. So coming up on it, we should be there in about 2 or 3 minutes. And yeah, we're going to say hello to Luis, Brooklyn Boy Knits. He's the one that got this thing rolling, I think. And Felicia, who's the owner of String Things Studio. And see who's showing up, who's there knitting. Okay, so walking back in the corner, see this group of handsome devils here, all knitters and crocheters, and they are fully enjoying the men's knit night now here at String Things Studio. And so all you guys here, you're all knitters, crocheters, some sort. This is Brooklyn Boy Knits.
How you doing, guys?
All right. You know what? I'm going to do a quick once around. If everybody can introduce themselves. And if you have a social media name or tag, that'd be fantastic. You can say that too. And you are?
I am Robert. My Instagram is Crow and Knit.
Crow and Knit.
Crow and Knit.
Nice. Okay. We did Lewis, Brooklyn Boy Knits.
Right?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Adam.
You're Adam?
My Instagram is ADM Knitwear.
Say again?
ADM Knitwear.
ADM Knitwear. Okay. Nice.
I'm Alex, and I've only been doing this for 1 hour.
Well, let's see. That is awesome. Dude, I can tell you, you've gone further in 1 hour than I did in my first 3.
So, Alex, your Instagram will be 1 hour.
I'm about about to create a new Instagram called Alex Knits #1.
There you go. There you go. Nice. And
what's up, everyone? My name is Randy, and my Instagram is itsknit.life.
Knitsknit.life? Itsknit.life. Nice. And
my name is Pedro. I
Pedro's
don't have Instagram.
That's okay, Pedro. We're all right. We're okay with that. All right. Are you here knitting with the group?
Yeah, hi, my name is Eric. I just learned to crochet about 6 weeks ago, and love it. And the guys have been really welcoming and generous with their knowledge and experience.
Awesome.
I don't have social media, but you can find me here on Thursdays from 6:30 to 8:30.
Felicia didn't tell him. Felicia did not pay him for that plug, I promise. Well done. I think your next skein of yarn is free. And who are you?
Hi, I'm Christopher, and my knitting name is Cabin Boy Knits.
Nice. Christopher, I understand you're from Canada.
I'm from Canada, absolutely.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And we're in New York, folks.
I'm Jack. My Instagram is Jake Bear Makes Things, all one word.
Nice. Cool. And one more. I remember you from the video saying, so it's official, we're going to have a knit night. That was you, right?
My name is Cairo, like Cairo, Egypt. And my Instagram page is Cairo Designs.
Awesome. Cool.
Hi, I'm Woody, and my hashtag or my Instagram name is Woody Howard.
Woody Howard. Is that just how it sounds? Woody Howard?
WOODIE HOWARD.
See, there you go. Good thing I asked. Everybody said.
My name is Felicia Eve, and our Instagram handle is @StrengthenStudio.
Right. How long have you been running this?
It will be 2 years, June 10th.
Nice. Awesome. So
the store has been open June 10th. The knit night has been going since January 10th of this year. Yeah.
Sweet. And we will be back in a future segment to speak with Felicia and do a local yarn shop spotlight.
Hi, Andre, and my Instagram is @Terenin, which is my last name, Terenin.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Richard. My Instagram name is Skier Richard.
Skier Richard. I take it you like to ski.
Yes, I was a very avid skier until a few years ago when I did my knee, and I actually left my knee in Chamonix.
Oh no! But knitting's a lot easier, right?
Knitting, yeah, it doesn't hurt anything.
And who's this hiding out in the back? What are you doing?
I'm Joe.
Joe. Do you have an Instagram, Joe?
Yes, Joe Major 01.
Joe Major 01.
Or
Awesome.
01.
0. Excellent.
How does this hat look?
I don't know, everybody. What do you think? How does this hat look?
Can't go wrong with the black hat.
That's sweet. Do you want to make one for me?
She's staying back. She's coming in.
Awesome! I'll be here for like 10 days. I'll pick that up when?
That's right by the door.
I'm Drew Ariana, and my Instagram is Mr. Knitwear, MR Knitwear.
Nice.
Hello, my name is Jimmy, and my Instagram is JohnBoyNY.
Nice.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Rapillo, and my Instagram is JONREQ.
Awesome. Okay, so your name is Woody? Okay. And you have an Instagram?
I do. It's Woody Howard, WOODIEHOWARD.
Okay. Woody, how long have you been knitting?
I don't know exactly, but for about 10 years or so.
10 years. That's a good length of time. Have you done sweaters?
Yeah. So I've done sweaters. I've designed my own. I've been in a knitting slump lately.
Right.
And I don't really want to do anything. Like, I start a bunch of stuff, but it doesn't go anywhere. And then
dreaded UFOs.
Yeah, is that what it is?
Unfinished objects.
I'm
Yes.
usually very good about like being a completer.
Right. So you're here. Do you live in the area?
I live in New Jersey.
You live in New Jersey and you come to Brooklyn for a midnight? That's awesome.
Yeah, I met Lewis at the Allentown Fiber. I work at a yarn shop.
Right.
And I was helping my boss at the event, and I met Lewis. and we've developed a friendship. So
Nice.
coming like the past month.
That's excellent. That's excellent. You work at a fiber shop, at a yarn shop.
Yeah.
Which one is that?
Chelsea Yarns in Red Bank, New Jersey. You should check them out.
It's now on the list.
Yeah,
we were looking at that.
Yeah, they have an online shop as well as a beautiful store. So my boss is great. She dyes her own yarn. Just gonna plug that.
That's excellent. I'll definitely check that out. All right, Woody. Thank you so much for being such a sport. I know you're not great.
That's fine.
Not a fan,
I'm just
but
ignoring
thank you
the technical aspect and looking at you. So this is fine.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. So just in general, guys, how are you enjoying this? I know this is only the third week, but is this something you've wanted for a long time, or is it something, did you just say, hey, let's just do this on a whim, or is it something that you wanted to have for a while?
We were talking about it, right? And I know the conversation started back in the summer with Felicia, the shop owner. And
this is way before I even discovered this place.
And me personally, like going into like knitting shops before years ago, it was like it was scary. It was like, okay,
all those women, oh my god,
let me get my yarn and get out. Right? So that's how I felt.
Crazy thing, like when I first used to get yarn, I used to go to like that.
Oh, okay. I think I know
and they would have like Carol brands and stuff like that, like very harsh yarn.
Yeah.
So
you go to Timbuktu and you find basically raw wool, and you're like,
and
what
all
is
of a
this?
sudden, like Lion brand pops up. I started going there, and then a few weeks ago, my girlfriend actually found Felicia's shop, and she found the editors of Vogue Knitting, and she surprised me. Came here, met this genius right here that I've been wanting since his since his news spread. I was like, no, I gotta meet this dude. Like,
I know he's humble, but this guy, he's good with pushing all that. Okay, I'm sure everybody knows it anyway, but let's start with your name.
Hi guys, my name is Louis Boria, Brooklyn Boy Knits.
Right. So, Louis, you started this group pretty much?
Yeah, we started back in January. Felicia and I were going back and forth, and she's like, when are we going to get a men's group in here? And I'm like, we need to. And we've been talking about it for months before January came along, and then finally one day, so you know what, let's make this happen. And we talked about it, we picked out our launch date, and it happened. It's funny because we did a promo video, and it was I don't do anything normal, so I like to make everything a comedy, and I said I want to do something fun with this, and it's on YouTube. So if you ever want to get a chance to look at our promo video,
we'll put up the link.
Yeah. It's really fun. It's pretty funny. So
cool.
I don't want to ruin it, but
yeah. All right. How many people do you got coming out?
So we started back in January with, I would say maybe 5 guys, and now it's grown. There are nights where we get 15 guys, sometimes a little bit more, but it's grown. People have messaged me throughout social media, even if they're visiting New York from out of town,
like me,
a point, right? They make it a point to come by, and I think it's pretty awesome. And we're here, and there's not many men's knit nights, so it's kind of special to have one here in Brooklyn.
Well, there's none in Canada. If you ever want to come up there and start one,
listen, we need to bring it. I mean, if it was up to me, I say, well, let's get one in every major city. Honestly, I think it's important that we have a safe space for guys to come and knit.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do you go from here? Like, what do you want to see this growing to?
I want to see it expand. I mean, we try to be mindful of other knit nights. Well, there's only one other knit night right now, a men's knit night here in New York, and that's at Knitting City on Wednesdays. But then there's a club coming knit night, which is Tuesday. So I'm actually working a deal with Rebar, which is a gay bar out in Chelsea in Manhattan, and we're talking having a men's knit night there. So that's in the works right now. So that's going to be interesting, and I'm looking forward to that because we're trying to fill a spot. So the idea is that we get a men's knit night once a week, every day. That's the big goal, right? So. But yeah, we're excited, and what I love most is that as knitting is getting more and more popular, I like to call it the knitting revolution, right? And more men are coming out, and you see more men knitting. I'm starting to see men knit on the train now, whereas you would have asked me 10 years ago if I saw men knitting on the train, I would have said never. But now I'm starting to catch men here and there, and whether you're knitting or crocheting, it's pretty awesome to see that happening now. So I'm really excited.
And then finally, how important do you think it is to have this for guys to come out and just let them know that it's okay to knit?
Right, I think it's really important, and sends out a clear message that we are here. We've existed since knitting first came out, right? As many people know, the history of knitting started with men, but it's important that people understand that there are safe places for you to come to, and for you to come and meet other men and knit. And sometimes it means just bring a couple of beers and we just knit and just talk about everything from politics to what's going on to who won the baseball game the night before. Like, we talk about all kinds of things. So it is a social event, and it's a way of us coming together, because knitting can be very solitary. It's a solitary activity, and you all go home, we knit at night, but to come together once a week and to have a space where we share ideas, we share patterns, we share our projects, we share our finished projects. It's important for us, and sometimes we work hard on our projects and we just want to show it off. So we all bring our projects to Men's Knit Night and see everybody's progress. And it's pretty awesome.
Excellent. Thanks for taking a minute to talk with us.
Thank you.
All right, man. So, okay, I'm going to back up so we can see everybody here. I want everybody to raise their hand that has ever walked into a yarn shop and you walked in with a female and they flocked to the girl thinking that this guy couldn't possibly knit. That's happened? Okay. That's happened to me too. And one of the great things about seeing a group like this is that it's showing that men's knitting is a thing. I mean, people say, oh, I'd love to see a guy knit, or I didn't know men knit, or whatever. And it's great now that we're getting that recognition that, we can knit too. This isn't a thing just for women and everything else. So that's great. That's good to see this. This is fantastic.
This is a safe space. Yeah, I've found it very therapeutic.
Right.
So it's been a great hobby to take on.
He's just coming into this, so this is your first exposure to fiber arts in general. So.
And are you knitting and crocheting, or are you crocheting?
I'm crocheting.
Or knitting? You're crocheting?
I'm not to knitting yet.
Right.
We'll get him to knitting soon enough.
Trust me, if you learn to crochet, then when you start knitting, especially doing continental style, it's a lot easier because it's almost the same technique.
Well, Brandon back here, he started off crocheting, right? And then I taught him how to knit, and now it's like,
I picked up a crochet hook thinking that it was knitting needles.
And you're like, where's the other one? There's supposed to be two, isn't there?
This wasn't like this on Google, so I'm currently starting off wrong. But yeah, Louis kind of converted me over to the knitting side. And,
right. Hey, nothing wrong with being bi-stitchual.
No,
it's all good, right?
I love it.
And speaking of crocheting,
okay.
So what is this you're making here?
I'm making a blanket.
Wow.
Yeah.
A blanket. Jeez.
So Pedro, tell them about how you're the bobble king.
Oh yeah, that's my signature.
You're the what?
I make scarves, all bobble scarves.
Oh,
6 feet long.
Nice.
All bobble. Because
yeah. And crocheted.
Yeah.
That's a lot of yarn, man.
Well,
Felicia must love you. You're just sitting here buying all our yarn all the time.
So my name is Drew Ariana, and I'm on Instagram as Modern Renaissance Knitwear, which is MR Knitwear.
Okay. Drew, how long have you been knitting?
Been knitting just about 2.5 years, so not a terribly long time.
But I heard just back there that you've already made a sweater.
Oh yeah, I've made like probably about 10 sweaters at this point.
Wow.
I dye yarn, I design. I kind of took to knitting really, really quickly, and I just love what it's doing for me.
Wow, looks like we're gonna have to do a whole segment on you at some point in time in the future. That's amazing.
I mean, I felt really inspired when I got started, but I was kind of dismayed by the lack of really good menswear patterns. A lot of them were just really dated, or it was like things that I wasn't gonna wear.
Yeah.
But then I would walk into like Zara or Topshop and I'd see these amazing knitwear pieces, and it just became this like aha moment of, oh, I can make those by hand. Like I can do things that are different from like the typical grandpa cardigans and that kind of thing that's pretty popular in the men's knit world.
Right. That's excellent. You're preaching to the choir, because that's exactly what happened with me as well.
For sure.
Excellent. So how long have you been coming here?
So this is my, I think, third time to the shop, and it's my first men's knit night here. I live kind of in the neighborhood, but not so close that it's super convenient for me to come. So I'm really glad I could make it today.
But it's worth it just to hang out with the guys and everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to live up in Harlem, so I would go to a different men's knit night that was more uptown. And then after I moved out to Brooklyn, I couldn't really find a good place where there was like an awesome men's knit night. And I'm really glad that this one exists.
Excellent. And you're busy knitting away. I'll just show everybody as a thing. What are you making?
So I'm just making a little beanie. One of my jobs, I have to wear a hat, and I like to make crazy hats, so that way they're a nice little conversation piece. So I've had this beautiful hedgehog fibers yarn in my stash for a long time, and decided to finally whip it out.
Excellent. And then what's your next project?
My next project, so I just did like a pullover Henley, and I did it with long sleeves, and now I'm going to knit 2 more with short sleeves so I can actually wear it during the summer.
2 more. So you're knitting like 3 pullovers, same pattern.
Yeah.
I guess you don't get caught with the one sock syndrome, do you?
No, I'm a quick knitter, so I always try and speed things along, whether it's like knitting 2 sleeves at the same time, or any sort of like little tips and tricks that I can do to reduce my knit time. So I can usually crank out a sweater in about a week, which is awesome.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, and I look forward to catching up with you again in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. It's a pleasure chatting.
Always, like some, like it was Lewis and
Cairo,
and Kai,
yeah.
Who else? And Rob,
Right.
is a regular but isn't here. Who were like, when do we get to have a men's knit night? And I'm like, I never said you couldn't. And we're trying to get people to come. And like, oh yeah, we had a promo video and everything. You can find it on Instagram. It was fun. But yeah, I've been wanting to have a knit night, and guys come in the store and the person's like, you're a knitter? And they're like, yes. We're like, why don't you come and do a knit night? Like, we need a pioneer. We need somebody to come in here and get it started. No takers. And so then
Lewis got it started
in January.
Cairo and Rob.
And we get guys that come in here that don't know how to knit, and they teach them how to knit. My son, who was here for the semester, Cairo sat down and taught him how to knit, and he is official, knitting gifts for people. Like, 21, almost 21. Wow. His friend came to the house today and was just like, so Michael says he's knitting, Mom? Like, what's going on? I'm like, we'll be here all summer if you want to learn how to knit. So he is inspiring guy friends specifically, to jump in and do this, which is cool. I mean, he uses it for relaxation and he uses it for focus. So we encourage him when he goes to class, if he feels a little anxious, to take your knitting, and it's worked.
Yeah, it works.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay, so can I have a show of hands here? We're gonna, because it would take way too long to go through everybody individually. Okay, so who's been knitting for less than a year?
Ooh, wow.
Okay, so you're a fairly new knitter. And are you new to this group? Because I didn't recall seeing you before.
I've been coming since February.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. And obviously you like knitting, right?
Yes.
Excellent.
I can't stand it.
Excellent. Okay, who's been knitting for less than 2 years? Okay. Let's say 3. All right, let's jump to 5. Less than 5. Excellent. Less than 10. Wow, okay. So we have a lot of knitters that have been around for a long time, but this knit night, the men's knit night, has only been here for 5 months now, right?
Yes.
So what did you guys do before this?
We went to other men's knit night.
Well, on Thursdays, nothing. Just sit at home and knit.
Right, and knit.
Yeah.
Did you have other friends that you hung out with to knit, or you just knit by yourself?
by myself.
Yeah.
By yourself.
I'm the only one
Right.
that knits in my circle.
Very solid shop.
Solitary
Very solid
knitting.
shop. Unless you come to a yarn shop.
Yeah.
I come here, right? Sundays.
All the time. Yeah,
Monday
Sundays
to
are
Sunday. my day.
quiet, but that's the day Louis
Quiet.
and I usually.
Hey, Game of Thrones.
Well, that's not until after we close. That's different. That's completely different. We supposedly have Game of Thrones projects that don't get knit. Like the lights are all out and we're here screaming, but. Yeah, during the regular hours, 12 to 5, it's a calm day, and we get like a nice crowd of people who don't come down this street normally during the week. And Sundays they're in the neighborhood for whatever reason and they come in. But Louis and I find time on Sundays to be able to kind of sit down and like talk. Just talk. Because you don't during knit night and you don't during the other knit night.
Right.
We're working and stuff, so.
It's
nice.
Felicia time on Sunday.
Exactly.
Nice. Well, it's good to see you guys out knitting together like this, and it's very inspiring. And hopefully, millions of people will see this and realize that, you know what, it's pretty cool for guys to get out there and knit as well.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Hey, everybody! # It takes balls to knit. Okay, so let's start with your name.
Richard Shen.
Richard, how long have you been knitting?
I guess maybe 6+ years or something like that.
Wow, nice. And have you knit the whole gambit in that time, like right from a hat all the way to a sweater?
Oh yeah, I've made multiple sweaters, scarves. The first thing I did was a scarf.
Right.
And then a lot of hats. I like complex stuff. So just plain knits doesn't work.
I have some cable patterns for you, trust me.
Oh, I love cable patterns, multiple colors and all that kind of stuff, yeah.
Excellent. How'd you find out about Knit Night here?
Actually, it started with my friends who were at Nitty City Knit Night.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm gonna check them out too.
Okay.
Don't worry. I've been there.
They said, Louis was going to start a knit night here on Thursday nights. So I thought I'd join them in on Thursday nights too. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And do you live nearby?
Manhattan.
So that's a good trek down here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's about an hour.
Wow.
Brooklyn, the outer boroughs are really the outer boroughs.
Wow. That's excellent. So you've done everything in the gambit, whatever. Do you design your own stuff too?
No, I don't know if you call it design. I've made 2 sweaters that basically I measure myself and I have a pattern of material that I like, and I made a sweater.
Nice. That's excellent. And what's your Instagram handle?
My Instagram handle is Skier Richie.
Skier Richie. Okay, Skier Richie. One quick question for you, and it's an either or, so you can just pick one or the other. You can't go thing. Sock weight or worsted?
Worsted.
Good answer. Okay, and first of all, what's your name?
I'm Jack.
Jack? Jacko
O'Connor.
Jack, you did this, right?
I did.
Wow. Is it a specific pattern, or did you make this up?
It is a pattern that I found off of, it's on Ravelry, but I got it from, I think, Love Knitting. It's a Czechoslovakian designer.
Do you know the name of the pattern?
I don't have it right in front of me, but I can find it.
That's
for you.
okay. We'll find it, and I'll put that up before we think. Also, what's your Instagram handle, Jack?
Jake Bear Makes Things.
Jake Bear Makes Things. Awesome. Thank you.
So, if you're ever in Park Slope, Brooklyn in general, or if you come into New York City, we have, I hate to say this, but we have the best men's knit night here. So come to Strength Thing Studio, and come knit with us, sit with us. If you don't know how to knit, we'll teach you. You don't know how to crochet, we'll teach you.
Nice.
All levels are welcome. Bring
We do not restrict age limit.
No, that's another thing. Yes, I'm glad you brought that up.
All ages are
so
welcome.
this is not just for, and we do have younger guys that come to our guys knit night. We decided to call it guys knit night, not men's knit night, right? Because we want to encourage younger guys to come in and sit and knit and crochet with us. So that's what's unique about our group. Unfortunately, we don't have the young guys here today, but we do. Cairo.
And you say yes, we do. I'm here.
Cairo, how old are you?
Not even 30 yet.
I'm not even 30 yet.
There are some 12-year-olds. But no, we do encourage younger guys to come and we're a great source of
information. Straight up. So when is it?
Every Thursday night, here at Spring Studios, here in 6, starting what, 6 o'clock? 6:30. Sorry, 6:30 to 8.
8:30-ish. Got you. And what is the address of?
54 7th Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11217.
Look at that. And he wasn't even paid for that.
No.
Wow, fantastic. Wait, doesn't Louis have a
No.
Okay,
I'd
no.
never be able to keep if I gave my keys to everybody that wanted to be here all the time.
So I'm just saying.
There's a lot of guys that I know that wants to dance,
Okay, hold on. That's enough. Hey. What is going on? What is the hubbub?
midnight.
Nobody ever said you can't come here and then. Why is that the impression? Did we ever say that?
Our time.
I think that's what you know. I have been trying to get a guys' night here forever. Not just for adults, but for friends with Kai too. You know, but nobody's ever stepped up. So I would love that. So is this official? You want to set a night? January 10th. Let's start it off the beginning of the year.
Luis, great guy, lots of fun. I just have a great time every time I'm in New York, hanging out with him and Felicia and everybody else that's in the shop. But now, what do you say we go back and finish the long-tail cast on?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Ooh.
It's okay. Okay, so perfect. Now that little ooh, that was why did that?
Because it feels tighter than the ones that I started earlier on.
Okay, so as you got going faster, you were pulling a little bit more tight. And also, you'll realize that this is considerably shorter than when we started out. Right? So now we got, how many? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 stitches here. So if you're doing, say 60 stitches, you want to actually have a tail when you're left. You don't want this to run out. And at the end of whatever project you're doing, you're going to be darning this in. But there comes times when the yarn is precious. Every inch is precious, and you don't even want much of a tail to darn in. And you want to maximize how much, actually I want to say minimize the loss of yarn, right? Because this gets darned in, that's a loss. Actually, with a high quality yarn like this, or with your silks and cashmeres and kiviots, you don't want to have any extra tail left off, right? Also, if we needed to say we were trying to cast on 60 stitches here, we wouldn't want to actually have to underestimate it like this and say, oh gosh, that's 15, now I need more yarn. So we'd have to undo those to do it all again. So I'm going to show you a way now where you can actually cast on any number of stitches without having to estimate the amount of yarn needed. And to do that, you need your yarn wound in a cake like this, or in a center pull ball. So you either need that, or you need 2 skeins of yarn. So if I had another ball like this, or 2 balls like this, I could do it. Or if it's in a center pull ball, this is what's called, it's a cake, but it's also a center pull ball because we can pull it out of the center. So what we do is we take 1 strand of yarn is from the center, and then we find the start of the yarn on the outside. It's right there. And we take our 2nd strand of yarn from the outside of the ball. if we had 2 balls of the yarn, or two balls or 2 cakes, 2 centerfold balls, whatever, we just take one from each. We put those ends together and we make our slip knot. Okay? And you do that any way you do it. Like I said, this is the way I learned, and even though I showed you the other way, just because I think that way is simpler. And so when we put the slip knot on our yarn, on our needle I mean, we still have 2 strands coming down. And now we just cast on exactly the number of stitches we need. Okay? If it's only 5, then it's only 5. If it's 500, and believe me, there are some projects where the number of stitches you cast on is in the hundreds, that's when this is particularly useful. We cast on, 500. Another great advantage to this method is that when we do it this way, our slip knot is our first stitch. It doesn't look like the rest of the stitches though, because it's a slip knot. It wasn't created the same way the others were created. And it just, it's one of those things later on, you can't criticize your work until after you've done 30 hours of knitting. But later on you'll look at that first stitch and you'll think, oh, I don't like the way that looks. So with this, however, the slip knot basically has those 2 ends there, right? So what we do is we eliminate this. We don't count this as a stitch. So we've actually only cast on 2, 4, 6, 8 stitches here. Because when we get to this work, we're actually just going to get rid of that slip knot. And I can actually show you what that looks like. Because I'm using circular needles, we can actually just go, what we'll end up doing is that, and undo the slip knot and not count it as a stitch. And that's how you do the long tail cast on. And that's how you do it, so to make sure that you always have the right amount of yarn. What you would do now is once you've cast on the number of stitches you need, you'd find the end that goes to the center. Or if you're using silks and that and you want to go from the outside, you find the one that goes to the outside and you just snip the other end. And then you've got your stitches, and then you start your knitting process, which would be knitting back that way. Okay? That's the second part of this. And that's your long tail cast on. And I said to you, it's one of the more complicated cast ons to learn. You learned it very easily, so you made a liar out of me, but that's okay. But it also gives you a really nice edge. If you look at the edge from it there, it's a really nice, neat edge. And if you look at those are actually knit stitches. Okay? It's a very stretchy edge, like relatively stretchy, but it still has enough structure. So it's a good all-purpose cast on. As a matter of fact, unless the project I'm working on says specifically to do a different type of cast on, because there's dozens of ways to cast on, I'll almost always use the long tail cast on. Okay? And now you know how to do it.
Thank you.
Congrats. You just want to know what I'm going to show you now. Well, as I said at the beginning, there's a way to ensure that you don't waste any yarn with your cast on, or you don't have to guess. We just went through that with the 2. And I also said that with the long tail cast on, we can cast on in pattern. Now, basically, if we look at these stitches, these are our knit stitches. And that's the way the long tail cast on works. It creates a first row, knit row. There are some times, however, when you're casting on, and it would be really nice to cast on in a pattern. A lot of sweaters and garments will have a rib at the bottom, which is, say, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. And when we cast on all our stitches as knit stitches, and then go to that, there's that one row at the bottom of ridge row that looks different. You can actually cast on, though, in pattern in a knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2 using this method. So I'll leave these stitches on, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So there's 9 stitches. Let's just put another one on, a 10th stitch. And those are all knit stitches. So if I wanted to cast on now, say, 10 purl stitches, I would do pretty much the same thing. My setup anyway is the same. You know, we don't have to worry about slip knot, we're just continuing on.
Okay.
I still separate them, and I bring down, I have my heart. I have my 4 strands.
Okay.
But what you're going to learn with knitting is that the knit stitch is the exact opposite of the purl stitch.
Okay.
So if you ever wanted to learn how to make a purl stitch, you do a knit stitch while you're looking at yourself in a mirror, and you would see exactly how a purl stitch is made. It's a really cool thing. You can try it one day. It's the same thing with the long tail cast on. So I've been going, let's undo that last one. Okay. I've been going over to 1 and underneath, over to 3 and underneath it, and then between 1 and 2, right? So now, that's my aunt. I really can't say anything because, you know, she's wonderful enough to host me here. So, yeah, so we went under 1, over to 3 and under, and then between 1 and 2. So to cast on purl stitches now, what we do is we do the opposite of that. So we're going to go over to the 4th strand and underneath that. And now this part is tricky because we go underneath the 2nd strand.
Yeah.
Whereas before we went over to 3 and underneath, we go over to the 2nd strand, but we go underneath it. Then we go back to between the strands 3 and 4 and let that go. And now it's the index finger that we were letting go. And we tighten up with that. And we've created a purl stitch. I'm just going to do a couple more so you can see the distinct difference between that. Okay? So you go over to strand 4 and underneath it. Now over to strand 2 and underneath that. But remember, we went over the last time for strand 3. We're going to go underneath strand 2 and between 3 and 4
and release.
And release. And we tighten it with our index finger. Okay? One more time. Over to strand 4. Underneath to get to strand 2. And between 3 and 4. And we tighten up with our index finger. Now, as you can see, it's different, right?
Yeah.
That's what a purl stitch actually looks like.
Okay.
And those are what knit stitches look like. So you want to try that way? Oh, come on, you can do it. It's your setup is the same, and you not even have to worry about a slip knot. Make sure you can see your heart. Yes.
So it's over to 4.
Right, but from the outside. Right.
Over to 4.
There you go.
Under to 2.
Right.
And then in between
3 and
4.
That's it.
And then I use my index finger.
Yeah.
So
and there you go. Excellent.
So over.
Mm-hmm.
And then under.
Right.
And then.
That's it.
Good, good.
Perfect. And like I said, you can see the difference now even more clearly between the 2 stitches. And underneath, it's still really nice and neat. That part pretty much stays the same, but it's here where it turns into. And then if you look on this side, those ones that look like pearls look like knits here, and the ones that we did that look like knits, those look like pearls here. That's the part where I said the knit stitch is the exact opposite of the purl stitch.
Yeah.
When you look at your work, whatever you see on this side, it's the exact opposite on the other side. So knit stitches on this side of your work are purl stitches on the other side.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Karen. You just helped us show how to do the long tail cast on, and also how to not have to estimate yarn, and how to do it in pattern.
Okay.
And regardless of what your pattern says, it's only going to be 1 or 2 stitches, a knit or purl. You can do knit or purl now, so you be ready to go?
Yes, what? Casting on.
casting on?
Nothing else.
Well, now we'll get you how to knit. So you might remember in the first episode that we had a contest, and in order to win the contest, you had to like this picture, tag 3 friends, and follow Carolyn Dick and myself. And the winner was going to get a great prize package, personally autographed by Carolyn herself. Well, the winner of that was Linda, and she goes by PMS Wife on Instagram. And Linda, you're going to be notified very, very soon by Carolyn on how she's going to get your details from her and get you your prize. Congratulations, well done. And for everybody else that didn't win, you can still order all the patterns and everything from Carolyn Dick's site. And also, there are other contests. Check last episode for that. Okay, so that's it for this episode. Thank you once again for choosing to spend your time with us. And I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did and you like it, you know what to do. That button down there, please click like and subscribe if you'd like. And that way you won't miss any of the upcoming episodes. You never know, I might even teach her how to do something else. This is Mr. Hugzzz and
Karen
saying see you later in 2 weeks, where we're going to have a very special show all about woolen. Make sure you're there. It's going to be awesome. Oh, too funny. Boom. Okay. So, Linda.
It's been a long time since I went to Dublin. It's been a long time, but I'm back at Woolen. This time I'm not leaving without you. You smell like sheep when I kiss you. Oh, I'd give anything for you to be my baby doll. This time I'm not leaving without you. I'll take you home where you belong. If there's no room in my bag, you'll travel in my bra. Take you home, sweet home, and baby, touch you, hold you, squeeze you till I dare to